The magical beetroot. These little gems either sit in the yes box or the no box. For me, it's a yes box. And if for you is a no box, we're here to change that. Today is where I turn you into a beet believer, and together we will exercise the beetroot. This house is clear. This is a fresh beet salad and it's perfect for a fall recipe. But before I get to the beets, let's make a pumpkin seed brittle. What? I'm gonna make a brittle with pumpkin seeds because I love the crunch. So let's start with it. It's pretty easy. Here's a couple great tips to get nice caramel. One, you want a heavy bottom pot and you wanna make sure the pot is really nice and clean. And then you want some white sugar. If you go into your bag of sugar and you have clumps, don't use the stuff with the clumps. Just use the nice grains of sugar. And a little touch of water helps kickstart the party. Ooh. But you don't need a lot, just enough to cover the amount of sugar and let it cook down. So this is super fall, and this fall spice is one of my favorites. It's star anise. It smells like a piece of black licorice in a grenade. Put that in there. That's gonna be delicious. And then a little touch of cumin, just a little scent of cumin with the sweetness and the star anise is just delicious. And then 2 twists of black pepper. That's 3. 4 twists of black pepper, and then don't touch it. Let it cook down, the sugar and the water, it will evaporate and you'll be left with a nice caramel, and then you can throw in the pumpkin seeds. Okay, for the beets, this is my tip. They're really easy to cook. So when I cook them with the skin on, and you just wanna boil them like one bubble at a time until they get really nice and soft. So I have gold beets and purple beets, and then this is how I like to peel them. So you take it and take the little end off, take the top off, and then you could use a knife, or I like to use some paper towel, and if you just push it like that with a paper towel or a dish rag, the skin comes off with ease. And look what's left. It's a beautiful golden beet. They're naturally sweet, but I'm gonna throw some spices at it. We're gonna get gnarly, and we're gonna fall in love with these. They already look so good. I love you. Okay, the few to peel, and we're good to go. Okay, so the beets are cooked, cut, that's delicious, and look at the color of this caramel. As soon as you just give it a little bit of heat, it starts to darken up, and when it starts to darken up, that looks delicious. And I can smell like little pops of the licorice from the anise and the cumin and the black pepper, but not to get the brittle super hard. I like to throw a little fat in there. So you could use butter or you can use cream. I'm gonna use a touch of heavy cream. Why won't this open? If you ever go to the fridge and you're like, who opened the cream? It's definitely me. And you should hear a little violence and a lot of bubbling when you put it in. Be patient, just let it sit there. It's gonna bubble up. And that's gonna give like a really cool snap texture to the brittle. If you didn't put any fat in there, it'd be glass hard and kind of wanna break your teeth. So that's perfect. So, this is the easy part. I have a little pan with some parchment paper in it, and then the pumpkin seeds do not need long in the caramel. So just toss them in the caramel. And I'm a sucker for the balance of sweet and salt. So there's black pepper in there, anise, cumin. If you put a couple twists of salt in there, it's so cool. And then just give it a mix and let her melt down a bit. This is great. So this is a perfect time to discard the anise seed. You don't want that in there. If you try to bite down on one of those, you are going to the dentist. And then just pour out the brittle onto a little parchment. Flatten it out. and then you want to let it cool. You want to let it cool at room temperature till it's really nice and sturdy and crispy. Don't touch it right now, you'll burn yourself. It's super hot, so just let it sit there and chill out. That's gonna give the perfect crunch to the beet salad. It's all about texture. So the vinaigrette for this is really simple. I love the flavor of a young onion, and shallot is great for it, but I like to dice it up. So dice up some shallot, get it in there. It's a great start to a dressing. All right, the rest of the dressing is pretty simple, but this is what I love about this dressing. There's some sage in it, but sage is super powerful. It's like the star anise. This is like a garden grenade, but you don't want a ton of it in there. Only a couple leaves will give you that beautiful, it's the perfect fall herb. It smells like turkey dinner. It goes great with beets and a little bit of sweetness. It's just delicious. So cut it up really nice and thin. Take your time here, run your knife through it. Like I said, you don't need a ton of sage. If you want to use dried sage, you can. It's a little aggressive, but just a few flakes of the sage. Once in a while, when you get that on a beet, a little bit of lettuce, some of the brittle, you're like, yeah, totally. Christmas, Thanksgiving, fall, I totally get it. All right, the dressing's all about balance. I know there's a lot of sweetness in the beets, but just a tiny shot of honey in there kind of helps the sage. You kind of pat it on the butt, lift it up a little bit, put a smile on its face. I got white wine vinegar, that's what I'm using. Balsamic would work great. And I keep it pretty simple. So just the balance between vinegar and honey is really delicious. Salt and pepper, because the shallots and a little kiss of salt in the vinegar, super yum. Black pepper. Just a few flakes of wild fresh thyme, just the leaves really help the sage, because the sage is intense, but if you put a little thyme in there, it just kind of warms it up a little bit and gives you like that garden herb freshness. Just delicious. I like to leave the thyme pieces big. You want those little pops of flavor all over your dressing. All right, you can use whatever oil you want. This is a light olive oil. I just whisk it till I have a nice balance. Yep, it's delicious. Little pops of vinegar, a bit of sweetness, and I love cutting the onions like that with the chunks of sage, because that stuff is super flavorful. The onions and the sage soak up all of that dressing, so it's like you can feel it in the back of your mouth. Pop, 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 pop. So delicious. Okay, so after about 10 or 15 minutes, the brittle should be nice and cool, and this is what it looks like when it comes out. That is so sweet, and it's got a beautiful snap texture to it because there's a little bit of fat into it. But you can't put it on like this on the salad or you lose all your taste. So this is what I like to do. A plastic bag and a metal something to hit it with. Whatever you want to hit it with is up to you. Get the kids involved, put it in a plastic bag and bash it up so it's nice and bite-sized pieces. Okay, this is my favorite part. It's really nice with the shot of cream in there, because when you bash it up, it's crunchy, but it's soft crunchy. It's almost like a crunchy caramel. All right, check this out. This is the perfect texture for any salad because it's really nice and toasty and nutty, but with the spices in it, the little star anise, and the balance between sweet and salt, that is just delicious. It's gonna give you sweetness, it's gonna give you crunch, it's gonna give you spice. It's perfect. Okay, for the beet salad, I like to make it look really pretty like a fall garden. So cue some like epic music to play to. I'm gonna make this look real pretty. Let's do it. For me, that is the perfect introduction to beets. A beet salad, you can taste the earthiness of the beets. Simply cook it, boiling water, peel it, salt and pepper, and then my favorite toppings for a beet salad are some really good intense cheese. Blue cheese is my favorite. You can use whatever cheese you want. Pops of freshness from pomegranate, and then arugula. Arugula is such a good lettuce because it's peppery, and then it plays on the sweetness of the brittle and the natural sweetness of the beets. Put some of the dressing on it, put that in the middle of the table. That's going to be delicious. It's full of texture, full of color, full of flavor. It looks healthy, and if you don't like beets, this will turn you into a beet believer. All right, I got some people to share this with.